I won't follow something that it's on a book or a specific way of seeing it. The message of Christianity and of the majority of religions, it's right. It's not about if it happened or not, because for me, it's not important if this happened. It's pointless. I have this feeling that the truth is not something we can really understand, but there's no truth for everybody. It's better to have your own story, you know?
I just spoke to a Spanish visitor to England who was very kind to give me some time and practice his English skills at the same time. Ultimately, great conversation. I think it was clear that he comes more from a postmodern perspective where what is true for me is great for me, but for someone else it might be something else. And for him, he just kind of leaves the door open to finding out more in the future. But yeah, it was difficult to maybe kind of land that importance of the absolute truth, which I tried to do. I'm not sure that it worked, but anyway, I presented to the gentleman my views. I presented the importance of Jesus's work on the cross, which I think is the key unique element of Christianity, and I hope that stays with him. I hope maybe he takes the time in the future to explore it a little bit further and makes up his mind. What is the truth? That's the key question. Pontius Pilate asked it, and Jesus answered, "He is the way, the truth, and the life." So the truth was standing before him, and I pray for this gentleman that he sees as Jesus as the truth someday. Anyway, thank you for watching, and see you in the next video. God bless. Do you have any belief, any religion, any faith?
Okay, I won't say I follow a specific religion. Maybe if I had to choose something related more with Buddhism, that I don't think it's a religion but a philosophy or something like this. Well, I don't know, I try to be a good person, and I really think that there's something beyond money or what is tangent, something, I don't know, about energies or something like this, but I won't follow something that it's on a book or a specific way of seeing it.
Understand, yeah. And is there something about like classical and traditional religion that puts you off?
Yeah, probably the thing of regretting, no, or feeling guilty about things. I think that Christianity, I mean, I'm Christian in the way I was born, but when I enter in a church, I see like a lot of darkness, and I won't say pessimistic, but something between pessimism and feeling guilty, you know, the guilt of being born, and you have to ask pardon, no? I don't have something against this, but I think that it's not like the way I want to see the world as it is.
Understand. And if you were to sort of just maybe think, without any aspect to any specific religion, but just like in general, would you say that there is like a God, like a creator, like someone who has created all of these things that we sort of see and the universe, and what do you think?
I don't think so, because I think that we are used to understand that there's something that started what we see, you know, like God, for example. So the point is, then what created God? No, it's like an infinite circle. I think that we believe in what we understand, and maybe we cannot understand what this is. So maybe it's better to create your own story, because you wouldn't understand. For me, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if there is God, what was the origin of God? No, because there's always an origin, no, of things as we understand things. No, this is talking about God and talking about anything. No, there can be. It's like in Spanish we say like the egg and the gallina
Chicken and the egg, yeah.
Yeah. So it's the same thing. No, not the same thing, but
Similar concept,
Yeah,
yeah, similar
similar
concept.
concept.
Okay. So that question about what created God, I mean, people would say, well, it's a different kind of a question because it talks. God, by definition, is uncreated, like eternal. And I know that's a difficult concept, right?
Yeah.
Because that itself, what does it mean, eternal? And could you have gods created other gods, and there's a difference. But if we just stay with this kind of universe and the idea that something outside of this universe created this universe.
yeah,
Whatever the outside of the universe
yeah.
is, however we understand it, whether it began at some point or not, and the concept of time is kind of losing its meaning maybe at that stage. But do you think that this universe would be something that was created, or that it kind of came on its own somehow?
I don't know. It could be a possibility. Yeah, I never thought like in depth about it because it can be an option.
Sure.
But you see, I think that as we know what we understand, maybe probably as we wouldn't understand what is the truth. It's better to have your own story, Of course, it's okay to follow our religion. I don't see anything wrong in that, regardless you fight other people that's not in your religion and these kind of things. But I don't know. It's very complex. But I think that maybe young people get a little bit away of Christianity because of this. No, when you are entering a church, maybe the message or the pictures were okay in that moment in life, but now people it's not caring a lot about this kind of ideas or point of views that are okay, but what? I don't know, not for everybody or not for the young people. I don't know.
I think you're right. I think maybe that's the case regardless of point in history. I think it's always the case that the younger people are less interested about the eternity because I think they have the whole life in front of them. The whole life seems like an eternity, and possibilities are endless. But then, as you live your life, and certainly the case for me, speaking personally, I was like that. I thought I was young. I was everything was in front of me. I'm gonna make my own way, and there's nothing that I couldn't do. Then I get older, and then I see my weaknesses, and I start to age, and I start thinking more and more about, okay, what happens when I die? When I die, what will happen then? Is there a soul? And could I continue to exist somewhere? And if so, what's next? How would you? I mean, was that something you thought about as well? What's next after we die?
And I read a lot, but it's I read a lot about it, but in different, in different ways. I feel that, for example, I was reading a book that it's called Travel to Ixtlan, something like this in English. It's called Viaje a Ixtlan in Spanish. It's about a Spaniard that goes to Mexico and he goes to the mountains and he knows like a wizard or something like this, peyote things. And he's speaking about some energy, some things that were very similar to how Chinese explain these kind of things, how Buddhism explains this kind of things. So yeah, read a lot about this, but every culture explains the same thing in very different ways. But you feel that it's the same thing, no? So yeah, I think about it, but I only try to read or to understand or to hear people, but not having like a strong point of view. I met a girl that was telling me that she felt like ill people, for example, had a bad life in their previous life. So it was like a kind of a punishment for being, I don't know, for maybe stealing or killing. So you were born in the following life with an illness or a disability. Maybe it's that way. I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting point of view, but I don't know. What I see is that, for example, maybe people is not so linked to a specific religion nowadays, but you do see that they are seeking for this spirituality, practicing yoga or meditating. This is something that was not common like 20 years ago or 30 years ago. When I started doing yoga, it was like, wow, a man practicing yoga. No? I don't practice anymore. I don't practice a lot right now. But yeah, I feel that people are just like seeking for their truth, but not in a so standard way as some years ago.
Yeah. Maybe, but I think you're right, because I think what has happened certainly in the Western world is that it used to be built on Christian values, and those values have withdrawn from the daily life, schools and people just less kind of go to church, and that has left a little bit of a vacuum. But I think that vacuum is real nonetheless, and I think people feel it in their spiritual souls, and so. If you remove something, you have to fill it with something else, and I think people ask the questions, and that's why they're exploring and they're trying out different things. Now, interesting about Christianity. Let's maybe specifically about that. Like, it sort of you mentioned before at the beginning of the conversations about the burden of guilt, the burden of sin, and those things. Now, do you think, talking about that idea of morality and sin, is there such a thing as an absolute good and an absolute evil? Because I think that's where when we talk about spirituality and people want to go to the kind of stories and truths and spirituality that kind of pleases them, but they don't want to hear things that challenge them. And I think the idea of sin is certainly a very challenging one. It places us in a position of being, as you say, kind of guilty before the Almighty God. But do you think that there's something about morality?
I really think so. But maybe not in the moment you were born. No, I mean when you are born in sin, because what others did or however you may call it, it's kind of weird. But of course. Maybe the point is that if you do what you like or you prefer to do in that very moment, but it's good for the others, then it's all right. If your position or your action will be against others, or you will feel others, you make others feel bad, maybe it's a bad choice. I mean, regardless the religion or the point of view, in Christianity it's this way, but probably in most religions, no. If your willing is against the others, maybe it's not the right thing to do.
Yeah.
If you have an option that it's more or less your willing and the others will feel great, that's good. I mean.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a good rule of thumb, right? And I think even I know that not just Jesus, but other religions have said kind of a good golden rule: do unto others as you would wish them to do unto you.
Yeah, well,
maybe that's a good rule. My question would then be, how do we know? Beyond what feels good to us, and therefore I know to some extent. Like pain is bad. Like I shouldn't hurt you because if you hurt me, I wouldn't like that, or steal from you, or do something that's very obviously I wouldn't want to be done to me. But there are things that are not so obvious.
Yeah, of course.
And unless I know you and we're very good friends and other things, like how would I know? Like what is truly good for humanity? Let's say, like at a human level, what is good for man? And what is bad for man? Like, what are the rules? What are the laws that we should be establishing in society to make us prosper? Like, where does that come from?
Well, you can't. You simply can't. You can try and you can do your best, but if you do things, if you have an opinion, it's impossible that everybody will like it. I mean, you always will do good for some and do good for. I mean, if I say I don't like Christianity, this will be something very good for some, and some will feel bad for what I said, no, and otherwise. So it's a matter of trying, of doing your best, and considering the others. But there's no truth for everybody. I mean, look, democracy and all these things. It doesn't work for everybody. It works for the majority, and that's it. And anyway, it doesn't work very good, no, because there is one God now that it's money, And
Well, that's the thing, yeah. But I appreciate that sort of seems like kind of the only really answer that we can come up with. But couldn't that lead us into some very difficult situations? To give you an example, is Nazi Germany, right, in 1930s and 40s. Yes, there was Hitler, but Hitler was just one person and one party, right? But the majority rule was such that they supported the party. They supported the rule, but they were the majority, and they as a majority in that country decided to support, and as a result, the minority suffered, right? And horribly so, right? Now, should we say that that's wrong? And on what basis would we say that that is wrong?
Well, I guess it was because the result was madness, no? But I don't know if you had the opportunity to read *Sapiens*.
Yes,
it's a book
yes.
written by a Jew actually, and he explains the whole story, tries to explain the story of humanity in one book, and I like it very much because I didn't understand why Nazis did that. I mean, I don't understand it, but there should be a reason, no? And he explains that they were trying to create the superhuman in a wrong way, but what my point is that for them, it made sense.
Yeah.
It was not a good idea. I'm not such an expert in history, but after First World War, maybe they felt like, I don't know, something we cannot understand now. And it's complicated sometimes to see, to understand how history was so many years ago, no? So I don't know. Yeah, probably I don't know if they felt that was a good thing to do. Probably the majority of them, with the time, felt that something was really wrong. But yeah, sometimes it's also hard to row against the others, no? So if you are in this loop of society and what others think, and maybe I think that if you were in that society going against the government, probably will send you to prison or to die directly. So yeah, it's a good point. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's like now, no? You know that you are consuming a lot of things. You are trying to recycle, but almost anything is recyclable, and you're still going on. I mean, we said, COVID will change everything. No, we will slow down. Not try to grow all the time. No, because we behave like a virus for the planet. Anything changes, and you continue. No, so it's not. It's about Nazis, but you are kind of doing not the same. No, of course not. But kind of to the planet, probably. No?
There are some parallels there as well. I think it hits on that same question, right? And the question really is, where do we get our foundations, right? From where do we get our foundations from? Is it from ourselves? Is it from the society, or is it from God, right? Because I think and there were Christians, for example, who in the World War II, Bonhoeffer being one of them, who was in a close circle of Hitler, who said that he did not want to be part of, not close circle of Hitler. But he was in a high position, and he was in a position where he could act, and he was being a Christian. He saw what was happening unacceptable to him, even to the extent that he found a reason and a rationale to come up with an assassination plot against Hitler. Now, it didn't succeed, and he got ultimately found out and he got executed for it, but his conscience did not let him be at peace because of that, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a very interesting question. I know the book you're saying, Yuval Harari, right? I mean, he is. But interestingly about Yuval, and I haven't read the entire book, but I've often heard people reflect on it, and I've heard some of his talks on it. But if I'm not mistaken, he is also a proponent of a singularity of some sort, right?
Yeah,
a future,
I think so.
a future humanity which advances through, technological.
There's a second book about that.
Exactly, and I think ultimately, to me, that's like a very Nietzschean idea. And Nietzsche famously once said, "God is dead," right? And what he meant, he wasn't trying to disprove the existence of God. He just said God can be moved aside because we no longer need the guardrails of religion for the progress of humanity, but humanity has kind of stood up on its feet through reason, through knowledge, and now we can improve ourselves. We no longer need assistance, so to speak. And so therefore God is dead, God can move aside, we will now take over, we will progress. But my understanding of that's an interesting idea, and I think that's what I think Yuval and some of the others who are in humanistic camp, so to speak, they're promoting that. But to me, every single historical example that I know of where that has been given a chance to develop itself has led to atrocities. Another example would be in Soviet Union, right, and in Stalinist situations in China and in North Korea, where if God is moved to one side, then you have a ruling class ultimately that rises up, and at the expense of the poor, the lowest people who ultimately suffer, right? Inevitably so, and that's all at the excuse of we have to promote the nation as a whole, or we have to promote certain class and certain attributes. But if you're not belonging to those attributes, if you're not qualifying, then tough luck, right? And so, but interesting, like Christianity, the very idea. I'm not saying that's always been implemented perfectly. We have plenty of examples in history where Christianity,
in Spain,
the Inquisition, and there's been the Crusades and other things. There's many of bad examples, but the very idea, interestingly, of Christianity is not just loving, not just doing unto others as you would wish them to do unto you, but even loving, taking care of the poor, even loving your enemy, turning the other cheek.
Of course.
And those ideas, like loving the poor, the orphan, has led to what I think, what we enjoy today in the society in the West, the fact that we have hospitals, the fact that we do have universities, the fact that we have laws, and the countries are built on very structured laws and order.
And our education, no?
And our education, I think they proceed from those very scaffolding, really, of Christianity, which you don't see, interestingly, in some of the other countries. I mean, I'm not saying that they're not progressive in other countries, but you don't see the same respect for human rights.
Yeah, probably.
And I guess that to me then interestingly puts back the question on is it better, is it more advantageous to answer the question of where does our morals come from onto God or onto the society. And to me, the answer is, I think we have to acknowledge that there are absolutes, and we have to acknowledge that there is God, and He has the right to speak to us about what is good for us and what is bad for us.
But I think that when we go to sleep now, let's say, everybody would agree that there is a God. The thing is that what is God? I mean, is God something related to a religion, an established religion? Maybe not. It's God inside of you. It's God something. It's God the creator, or there is the creator of the creator of the creator. You will never know. I don't know. But for me, it's not so important because it's up to you. I mean, if for you God, it's linked to a book about Christianity, it's okay, as long as it fits your ideas and you respect the others, and as long as you are not trying to, I don't know, put this as the religion of everybody. No, look now what's called in Israel, no, all these things. I think that religions are just fine. It's when they are mixed with power and countries, they start to be a little bit messy. But I think that, well, sometimes people tries to find God in, I mean, maybe God are trees, you don't know. If it fits your ideas and it makes you feel right, and it's also good for you and good for your surroundings, why not? And if you feel that maybe it's Christianity and you really think that it fits your ideas and the whole circle, it's I mean, you are right and you are sure about it, it's perfect. I mean, why not?
No,
It's
absolutely.
for many people. My parents are super Christian. I don't have anything against it, but I'm not like going to the church on Sundays. I think that it's okay, no, because you stop for a while and you go for an hour or 40 minutes. I don't remember.
Depends what it is.
And you are there and you like pray. Like the thing is that maybe the prayers, the things that the priest says, are not longer modern, let's say. No, it would be nice to refurbish this, and this is why people maybe looks for this in other religions, like not religions, no, but Buddhism, all these things that maybe they are linked to a god, like this inner like thoughts, no, like to look inside and reflect and also meditate a little bit. It's kind of very similar, no? But maybe not so linked to the Bible, you know, New Testament, Old Testament. They are very different, no? And well, yeah, Old Testament, it's a crazy book sometimes, no? And it's very tough to read as well, no? Maybe that's the point, no? Maybe some people don't look at Christianity in the way you look at it, because they only see the points that don't belong to themselves, or they don't really.
Sure, and I agree. I mean, it is sometimes difficult because ultimately, for most of us, I mean, unless we are finding ourselves as being Jewish and in the Middle East, we have to understand that we are coming from a different cultural perspective, right? And then we cannot equate everything that is written for a group of people to ourselves necessarily. But interesting, staying with that point, and I do fully appreciate and support your thought about. I think what you're trying to say is that it's a free choice ultimately, right?
Yeah.
And so it should be freely made, and I fully agree with that. But I also think that all of us should invest the time to investigate what is truth, because I think it is more than just something that is intellectually interesting. I think it does actually impact our very lives, because if we think about ourselves and what drives our decision making, what drives our thoughts, I see that like there's like almost a kind of a foundation, and that you build on top of that. And I think very close to the foundation, if not the foundation, is our beliefs. And I think it's worth asking the question: what is it that we believe? Why do we believe it? Is it something that someone has taught us? Is it something that we just inherited from our parents, from our culture, from someone else? Or is it we aspiring to something? What is it? And I think that's quite, for any individual person, if they're going to be honest about being human beings, I think that's a good question to ask. But anyway, maybe one of the last couple of questions for you is, you mentioned about the Bible, the Old Testament, the New Testament. Let's maybe stay with the New Testament just for a moment. Obviously, Jesus as a historical person, do you believe that he was a historical person? Do you believe that what was written about him in the Bible is true?
Probably, I mean, but the truth, what is true, no? Because when you write a book, it means that everything is, I mean, I'm not sure if the Bible tries to explain something 100% true. Maybe it uses some, I don't know the specific word, but let's say story, to send a message or to explain something. I mean, imagine that I have two children and I want to explain something for their personal growth.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter 100% that the story I'm telling them happened as I'm explaining it exactly that way. The thing is that they got the message. So maybe some hundreds of years ago, if I want everybody to understand something, a message that I think that it's good and I think that it's for their own personal growth, it's not so important. I mean, if you are asking me if I believe that God went to someone that was blind and at that moment was not blind anymore, maybe not. But I think that it's not important if it happened or not. The thing is the message, about faith, about to do good. I think that the message of Christianity and of the majority of religions, it's right. It's not about if it happened or not, because for me, it's not important if this happened. It's pointless.
Okay, what's interesting. Okay, even though, so I would kind of agree with you if the Bible was written by one person or a committee, like maybe a committee of some sort, which had that general, maybe let's say, idea that they wanted to put together a philosophy into the world, and they use that method to do it. I think that would really make sense. But what I think what challenges that is that the Bible is written by multiple people over a period of time who did not know one another, but they were recorded and they were speaking as eyewitnesses, and I saw this and then this happened and this happened in the time of this and this person in this specific geographical location, and here's who was there and how they saw it, this is what they reported, and another person says about the same event, maybe just using slightly different narrative because they saw it from a different perspective, or they spoke to someone who saw it. And then you have, 4 Gospels, you have letters of Paul, you have Peter's letters, John's letters, and it comes together. We call it the Bible, but it's really, 30 whatever plus books that are written by independent people, but very same story, but without trying to force that story. It's not like there's a committee, like I said, that kind of presided over it. To me, that's a very compelling historical reality, right? If knowing right that there were eyewitnesses who saw that, and maybe we can maybe suspend our disbelief of the miracles, but would you say that these were mainly historical events?
I'm not sure, because I'm not that into the specifics of the Bible, but maybe, I don't know. Probably there's something, I don't know if 90% or 20, I don't know, but for me, I insist it's not important. Imagine that all you said, I can prove you now that God didn't exist or didn't exist that way.
Sure.
And what? I mean, it works for you. I mean, imagine that right now I'm proving you that Jesus Christ didn't exist at all, and it was, I don't know, something that makes some sense at some point, but imagine that I prove it to you.
Yeah.
You won't care. I mean,
I would actually care quite a lot.
Yeah, but I mean, if it works for you and it does good to you, I mean, what's the point if he existed or not? It was 1,000, I don't know the numbers in English, but it doesn't change anything right now.
Maybe not this very moment right now, right? But I'll tell you where those who believe, right? Those who would be finding that idea, that would change everything about them. It would be because they believe Jesus is still alive, that he hears prayers of people. So right, their prayer life would be affected. Who am I praying to if I'm not praying to the Son of God, right?
No, I mean that God in the earth. I mean, interacting to people. Like imagine that I really prove you that there was no person attached to God named Jesus Christ, like interacting to people. This wouldn't change anything, no, at all.
You mean historically, or meaning like
like the Bible describes a man interacting with other people. Imagine that this part of the man, like being God, well, the Son of God, but God in a way, didn't exist.
Okay. But let me answer the one way that it would still matter, and even profoundly so, right? Which was actually going to be one of the questions I was going to ask you, and that is what is Christianity at its root about, right? I would guess. I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I would guess that you would say it is about good living, right? It's a good moral living, teaching us how we should live our lives. Something to that order, but actually Christianity is something, because I think many religions are about that, but I think Christianity is about something completely different. Not that, but something much more than that. And this is the point about Jesus, right? My understanding is Jesus came to this earth with a specific mission and a purpose, and that mission and a purpose was not just teaching and exemplifying a good life. He did that very clearly, but he came to die. Right, and this is where, if he did not exist, and if he did not do those things, like die on a cross, would change history. We would not have the numbering of the years. This wouldn't be the 2024 AD, the year of our Lord. We wouldn't have many other things. That is because his death on the cross was the payment for the sins of the world. Right, to the extent that, going back to the very beginning of our conversation, if we do believe in sin, the absolute right and the absolute wrong, and if we believe that we are not perfect beings, that means I am a sinful person, pretty much everyone else is here, and the only one that can redeem us from that sinful state is he, and that's what he did on the cross. So being on the cross, he pays for the sins of the world, taking my punishment. So and in return, he gives me his righteousness, and I give him my sins. So it's a big exchange. He gives me his purity, I give him my dirt. And that, if he didn't die, that legal, it's almost like a legal transaction. It's not just about morality. It's a court case. It's almost like, to be very kind of banal and to be very analogous, is, let's say you do a speeding ticket, a £100 fine. You come to the court, and the judge says, "Okay, where's your £100? Can you please pay your fine?" Now you can come up with all sorts of excuses, and "I'll never do it again, judge," and all that kind of stuff. But ultimately, you have to pay the fine, because if he's a righteous and just judge, he will demand a payment to satisfy the justice. Now imagine you don't have the money to pay, but someone else comes in and says, "Here's the £100. I'm paying for him. You let him go. The accounts are settled. Justice is satisfied. You can go free." It's not a perfect example, but that's what happened on that cross, right? On the cross, the justice has been satisfied. The sin has been atoned for in the person of Jesus, who died on the cross. And that's what Christianity is about. That's what makes it unique to any other religion. That's why the cross is a symbol of Christianity. It's because so much has happened on that cross that no other religion has a story where God comes down to die for his creation. That shows love, that just shows the desire for reconciliation, the care, it's a restoration of a relationship ultimately. Every other religion, Islam and every other, like, they would say, if you just try hard enough, be good, do better, do these practices and follow this way, you'll achieve, you'll get there. But Christianity says, no, you cannot, you're a sinner. You are not going to get there by your own strength, but God knows that about you, and he loves you still, and he's done something to restore you to himself, and he demands trust. He wants a relationship, and not church, not money, not any of those things. He wants your soul. He wants your being, your trust. Does that kind of make sense? Because that's the Jesus sort of element of it that is very, very crucial. I mean, I'm sure you heard about that before.
Well, yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, do you see how that makes Jesus as a kind of a central figure?
Yeah, of course. If you look it that way, 100%, yeah. 100%.
Yeah, and to me that's something that I think is worth at least investigating, right? Going back to that point of we have freedom to decide what we believe, what we don't believe. But I think that understanding whether we believe in that or not ultimately will have implications for our life.
Yeah, of course.
But I also think after our life as well, right? If we believe there is an afterlife, the having a trust in Jesus puts us in a right standing with God, because otherwise I don't think anyone can stand before the Holy One, the Almighty One. But obviously, I know that we don't necessarily share that view, but I would respect. I'm not saying anything more other than I think it's worth exploring.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it's one of the goals of our lives, no? I guess for everybody. Yeah. But I think that more people is exploring that than we think. No? It's not common to show it, maybe. No, maybe they are not exploring it in the same way than you or whoever. But I think that people is exploring who they are, what this is about, no? Because the point of the previous conversation, that who created this or what created this. I think that really people is caring about this. I mean, not everybody, because not everybody likes to think about things, but yeah, I think that people is considering things and trying to explore their own truth. It's right that maybe it's not so much about Christianity or other religions than before. People is exploring, as you said, no, other ways of thinking or their own truth. I don't know if this is good or bad. It's how it works today. I don't know. I'm not in touch with many people about this, no. But
yes. No, I think you said it well. Yeah, it's for everyone. And if you were to, are there sort of specific questions that you plan to? Is this something that's going to be even a thought on your mind in the future? Is this something you will give some?
About Christianity?
Not necessarily about Christianity, just about these questions, right?
No,
is there a God? Like, is there something that you pursue?
This is something I read a lot, and I think a lot. I don't have that perspective about God like being something so tangible. I don't know. I'm not sure about it. But I mean, imagine that I don't know. I die, I go to heaven, and they say, it was all about Christianity. It wouldn't surprise me a lot. I would say like, it was an option. I mean, it was an option in my mind, no? I mean, it works. As I told you, I think that we think in the way we understand things, and I have this feeling that the truth is not something we can really understand. It's my point of view, and this is why sometimes we create images or things for us to understand what is not understandable. But this is my point of view, and I know that it's a pretty crazy point of view, but it's what I think. But it works. I mean, this is what I meant with imagine that I say that it's not true. I mean, it's not important how you tell it. The thing for me is that the content, it's good, and it's good for you, it's good for everybody.
Yeah.
If it's about Christianity, it's super fine. But imagine this girl tells me a very different story, like you are doing. Maybe she's right, I don't know. But the important thing is that it works for you, it works for her, and if you're sitting at a table, it works for both. This is the point for me.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening, for
welcome.
sharing your views and opinions, and for giving me your patience and honest views. Yes, I appreciate your time.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yeah.